Today we're in Crescent City, California. Crescent City is 10 miles south of the Oregon border, and we've got Jedediah Smith Redwoods State Park there, Del Norte Redwood State Park, Prairie Creek, Redwood National Park. This is the area where all the redwoods are. Unfortunately, it's highly regulated, and there's very little mountain biking and very little places you can take the dog. Not even on a leash, you can't take him most of the dirt places. So if it's a road that vehicles are allowed to be on, then dogs can be on it. But if it's a hiking trail, no dogs and no mountain bikes. Still one of the most beautiful places we've ever been, but it really makes things challenging to do the things that we love. We just got back from the visitor center where they had a lot of information about where to go hiking. We got a whole bunch of pamphlets and stuff. We've been to this area a lot, but each time we learn more. So we're planning out our route over the next few days, and one thing I can say is I'm glad I don't have the Airstream up here. That just adds a whole new set of complications when trying to find what roads it can handle. Is it too big for some roads? Is this road bumpy or gravel or paved? And is there even a spot for it? Way easier to do it in a van. A lot easier to find a spot.
We're driving through Jedediah Smith. Oh, it is like a whole other world in here. It feels like you're in a fairy tale or Jurassic Park.
I love it when these trees get hollow. Since this is officially a road that vehicles can drive on, Fender can walk on it on leash. So Fender is going to go on a walk with Teresa. If you had to either live in a van or an Airstream, which would you choose full time?
Gall, if I could only do one, it would be Airstream. Just because it's just harder to keep organized and clean with all the activities and gear that we have and do. But that being said, I mean, we really have the best of both worlds, having the van that we can store the Airstream and do stuff in the van. And it feels more like a bit of a vacation or a normal road trip to leave the Airstream behind.
What if you were single?
If I were single, I think I would van. I would van it. I'd have less stuff and it would be a lot easier to not be towing. And yeah, I think if you're doing it single, a van is totally doable.
Are you going on a walk? All right, see you in a bit.
We'll see you in a mile or two.
Here comes my dog. He gets pretty excited. Hi, you.
He wanted Steve to come too.
He wants to get in the van. We just made it to Stout Grove, where we're gonna do a little bit of hiking and check out some redwoods. This is like the main touristy spot in this national/state park.
I think it's just kind of a lazy meander.
I will say these redwoods are cool, but not as cool as the drive on Avenue of the Giants. We prefer Avenue of the Giants over this. Still pretty here though, we still love the redwoods. This is the Stout Memorial Grove. In 1929, Mrs. Clara Stout donated this 44-acre grove to the National and State Park. Pretty cool. Got some 300-foot tall redwoods in here. Can't come here without remembering Star Wars. One touch of nature makes the whole world's kin. It's so quiet in here.
Feels like a church.
I could go to church out here. That'd be awesome. It's a Valentine clover heart.
Be mine.
Thanks. Hi. You gotta stay in here. You're not allowed to come out. I'm so sorry. You still love me? You do? Now we're gonna go see if we can find a mountain biking trail in here. He wishes he could come, but you really can't. You have to stay here. I'm so sorry. Look at that face. How do you say no to that? Today's mountain biking tip is brought to you by Teresa. We are learning about cables and housings, specifically derailleur/shifter cables. This is her stock cable. It goes into the shifter. Watch this. When I hit the thumb, it pulls cable in, and when I hit this one, it lets it out. It's the perfect amount for the derailleur to move just that much to line your chain up with the shifter. The housings are these black parts that the cables ride inside. First, we need to get this off. If you're new to mountain biking, the first thing you should get is a multi-tool. It has all the tools you're going to need for your bike. One thing I would make sure though you have is a chain breaker tool. That way if your chain breaks on the trail, you can remove a link and insert your quick link and keep riding and not be out. This multi-tool is a Toe Peak Alien. It's been wonderful. I have really loved it. But bikes nowadays have a lot more Torx fittings, and so I've been using the Crank Brothers tool. One Up just announced a really cool product. It's a whole tool thing and pump and CO2 that goes inside your steer tube, and it goes inside there so you always have it with you on your bike. Pretty cool. Alright, we got the shifter off. Now we got to figure out how to get the cable out. Every shifter's a little bit different. Some shifters just have a nice little rubber plug that you pull out and it comes right out. This doesn't, so we're going to take that off. And probably the biggest problem when people start learning how to wrench on bikes themselves is they over-tighten everything. Mountain bike stuff does not need to be white knuckle tight.
Woo! That was a close one.
It needs to be snug but not cranked down. And so mountain bike industry has actually been putting smaller bolts on stems and stuff to prevent people from just torquing down on them. Okay, so in here we can see our spring for our shifter, and in there is the stopper, the end of our cable. So push the cable out. And you can see it's meant to pop right out there. Okay, watch carefully because you have to put the next one in there that same way. It's probably good to replace your cables every 1,000 miles. For most people, that's every 2 or 3 years. Replacing your cables and housings probably 30 to 40 bucks for the whole bike, and it makes everything operate a lot smoother. So now we're going to put the new cable in here and close that all up. Probably the only part on the bike industry that has not changed dimensions in the last 20 years is a shifter cable. They're all the same, thank goodness. So that means you can hang on to these for a while. The shifter cable has a little stopper on the end, and that's what Teresa pulled out. So I'll show you how this works. We put this back in the way it came. Crows want to be on the video today. Then we pull it through and watch what happens with the stopper. You want to keep this out of the dirt because it's going to be doing all your shifting. Then the stopper stops right there, and that's how it works. Super simple design. Put our cap back on. Remember, you don't need to be He-Man here, just snug it down. This is the shifter cable housing. Starting from outside to in, it goes this black plastic sheath with a whole bunch of steel wires going this way, and then an inside plastic sheath. The steel wires give it rigidity and it protects the cable inside. And the cable will eventually slide in that inner tube, and you want to keep that clean and free of any kinks or any problems like that. We got a big kink from a stick, that's why we're replacing it. On the end of your derailleur housing, you're going to put a little cap. This goes into your shifter, and the other end goes into your derailleur. Let me show you why we love Santa Cruz's so much. They have a straw inside of here that goes all the way through all this and pops out where it needs to. So fishing the housing through is a lot easier. Some other companies don't do that. It's just an open hole. You push it down there, and then you have to get a wire hook, and you're fishing it for hours trying to pull the thing out. This still isn't going to be easy, but it's a lot easier with the full guides through there. The guides also keep it quiet when you're going through bumps and it gets chattery. The guides hold tight onto that so it's not rattling around inside. So huge props to Santa Cruz for doing that. Another thing we love Santa Cruz for is having a threaded bottom bracket. And we also love them for stocking the bearings of any bike they've ever made. So a bike 25 years old, you can still buy their bearings. Try doing that with another manufacturer. You're never going to find those parts, and they'll just say, sorry, we no longer make those. good luck. Try and find the number off the bearing and call a bearing supply company. Santa Cruz stocks all their rebuild parts for all their bikes, and they have all the exploded diagrams on their website for free. Really awesome that they do that. So it just goes to show that Santa Cruz builds bikes to last a long time, and they know their owners are going to be wrenching on them, not just trading them in every year to get the next one. Okay, now we're going to fish the empty housing, the new housing, into our tube. And it's a little bit snug because these rubber grommets on the end give it a little bit of friction. Alright, so we're going to pull this plug out. We'll put it back in a minute. That's just to keep it quiet. And there you have it. That's internal straw. Let it right here, and that was literally 10 seconds to get that in. Now I need to push this back in, keep it all quiet in there. I'll do that once I'm done. On this bike, now that it's popped out here, it goes up to this, along here, and back to our derailleur. Here you can see that the housing goes in there, but it's loose. It needs the ferrule to be tight in there. So we put our ferrule on, and now when we put it in there, it's nice and snug, and it's not going anywhere. Now we're ready to put our cable inside of our housing. And before we do that, I'm going to put a drop of Tri-Flow on this. This is my favorite lubricant. It's like what everyone uses WD-40 for, but it works a lot better. It has Teflon in it. This is the #1 thing we use in a bike shop. So you don't need to coat it big time or anything. You just need a little bit on there, and that'll keep it running friction-free inside the housing. Now you can buy really expensive cables that have Teflon baked onto them already, but I find that this works just as well. This is the little 2-ounce bottle. I prefer this over the spray, but everybody's different. So now I'm going to put it right in here. Right in the hole that's in our cap. Going to go right through, and it's going to spit out right at the end at our derailleur. Okay, now we've got the end of our housing here. I'm going to pull it tight and watch what happens up above. Right into the shifter. Perfect. Okay, now we've got our inner cable coming out. We're ready to route this through. The SRAM derailleurs, which are my favorite, have this really cool pin right there that'll hold the tension off that. That allows me to do all my work here, run my cables through here, without worrying about fighting the tension on that all the time. We've got our bike upside down so that we can get to this pinch bolt right here. And you want to get it to where you pull snug on this, you're not cranking on it, and tighten down that pinch bolt. Once again, you do not need to be Hercules and just tighten the crap out of it. Just get it kind of snug. Call that good. And we'll cut our cable in just a minute, but I'm going to leave it a little bit long at the moment while I'm adjusting it. Alright, Tess is tidying up her cables. Now, one thing that happens with these new inner cables is they're steel, but they will stretch for the first 10 hours that you ride. So it's going to be, your shifting may be off a little bit. And the way to fix that is with this barrel adjuster right there. You just loosen it a turn or two, and it'll get tighter, and it'll pick up the slack that the shifter lost. Pretty simple procedure. You should not be afraid of it. I learned how to be a mechanic from bikes by just taking stuff apart, but there's so many great YouTube videos now that you don't need to break stuff. You can always watch a video on it.
I rode it around a little bit, and it's a little bit slow shifting into my lower gears.
So what that means is she pushes the thumb piece, and it's slow to climb up to these ones. That means our cable's not quite tight enough. To tighten our cable, we do that here, and we pull it out 1 notch, maybe 2. 1 more. So we loosen it a notch, and that pulls the housing away but keeps the cable inside and tightens the inside, and that makes it shift better, because remember when we hit the thumb, it's tightening the cable. Let's see if that did it.
That's way better. I may want to do a little more fine-tuning as we ride over the next few days, but that's way better. That feels good.
Now we're ready to cut this off. I like to leave about 1 inch, and then we'll crimp our end on. I'm going to cut it right about here. And you actually want to use bike-specific cable cutters. Mine are rusty, but they're actually really sharp, because they if you look here, they grab and cut the cable from all directions. If you try to use side cutters, like normal wire cutters, you're going to hate life. It's awful. They don't cut this very well and they destroy your cutters. Then we put our little end ferrule on to keep that from unthreading. Let me show you how I crimp that. Now to keep this from unraveling and fraying, we're going to put our ferrule on the end and we're going to crimp it a little bit here. You don't need to do anything crazy, but that's going to keep it right on there. And I like to bend it out just a little bit so it doesn't end up hitting and rubbing on that. But you also don't want it sticking too far out that it catches branches again. The initial problem, we caught a branch up here, it kinked that and ripped it and it wouldn't shift past that kink very well. We've completely replaced all that. It was about 15 bucks of parts and about 20 minutes of time and it's good to go again. We're about to ride the only trail you can ride here, the Little Bald Hills Trail. It's going to be fun to be riding amongst the redwoods.
Whew, it's hot and humid.
This is a lot of elevation fast. I think this trail has, let's see, goes from 400 feet to 2,000 feet in 4 miles. That's a lot on a bike. It's pretty though.
I was hoping we'd see one of these. It's a banana slug.
Look at the size of that. It's bigger than my finger.
Don't worry, buddy. We won't hurt ya. Woo! Well, I think we're ready to turn around.
A lot of deadfall, a lot of sticks, a lot of logs across the trail.
It's getting late in the day, so we got a good workout climbing up, and that's nothing to turn your nose up at.
Yeah, we just climbed 1,700 feet.
I thought we would just bomb down, but the last mile or so, there've been a ton of sticks in the road. And after last week, I got a stick jammed in my rear brakes. I got another stick that snagged my derailleur cable. So I think we're gonna be a little cautious till we get past the stuff where there's lots of sticks on the trail, and then hopefully the last little bit we'll be able to have some good fun.
Lean into it. Good job. Even though there's no berm, those are freaky with no berm. You did great. Coming through, animals. Oh man, that's fun. Can't quite hit that. Oh man. Golden hour in the Golden State. Leaning that bike. You should always feel it on the inside of one of your knees in some sort of turn. And bow your legs if you have to even more. Stay loose. Good job. This one's trickier. Yeah. Nice job.
We probably did like an hour and a half of climbing for like 10 minutes of downhill. But it's fun. This is more of a hiking trail than a biking trail. Even though bikes are allowed, it's more built for hiking. So you're not gonna have any cool bank turns or anything, but it's still worth doing for the scenery.
Oh man. This is more fun than riding a speeder. Nice! That's perfect. Yeah, now you're leaning it. Jump it. What's this? Hold my beer. That bike looks like it belongs in this environment. What a beautiful ride. I'm glad we did that. It's really the only ride within like 20 miles of here. Yes, we love our van that doesn't require taking the front wheels off.
So worth it. I don't care what anybody says.